Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down multiple storms that are coming to the United States over the next 7 days, and these storms will cause various problems, including the risk of severe weather, like damaging winds, large hail, perhaps even an isolated tornado risk. In addition to this, we are going to continue to observe above average temperatures for the majority of the United States, which will continue to bring the potential for some record-breaking high temperatures. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin with what's happening right now in the United States today, and we'll begin with the northern plains. And this is actually where we do have a storm located this afternoon. Low pressure system is going to be located right around North and South Dakota, and this is going to bring the potential for a few isolated thunderstorms this evening to areas like western Wisconsin and eastern Minnesota. There is not really any severe weather risk with this for today, but there might be a couple of storms that produce some strong winds and perhaps some small hail. But once we go into tomorrow, this low pressure system will continue to move to the north and northeast, and eventually we're going to have a low pressure system develop across the central plains, and this storm is actually going to bring a bit more of a legitimate chance for at least a low-end threat of severe weather, which will be from the Midwest back through the southern plains and even back into the lower Mississippi Valley. We'll have at least a shot at some low-end threat of severe weather, including damaging winds, hail, and perhaps even an isolated tornado threat, and we'll be breaking down that for you here in just a couple of minutes. And then back over in the southeast, we still have some showers and thunderstorms going on this afternoon. We actually did have a tornado warning back down in southeast Florida near West Palm Beach. That happened closer to lunchtime, and there will still be at least an isolated threat of severe weather through about 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. So overall, that threat will start to die down. And notice back over in the Texas Panhandle, all this right here is wildfire smoke, and that is because that really massive wildfire, the largest wildfire in history of Texas in the northern Texas Panhandle, is still ongoing. Over 1 million acres have burned. I believe at this hour it's about 20% contained, so it is starting to increase in terms of how contained it is, but it's still far from done due to the fact we still have strong winds in that area. And unfortunately, the wildfire threat is not going to be going down because low humidity and warm weather is going to be sticking around for the next several days. So really unfortunate stuff there. And then back over on the West Coast, we are continuing to have some showers and snow showers across areas in California, Oregon, and Washington. Many areas in the higher elevations of California have been around 100 inches of snow, so obviously a very crazy snow event happened there over the past really 48 hours or so. All right, let's talk more about this large storm that's coming to the United States tomorrow, because this will actually bring the potential for some severe weather. And then later in the week, we're gonna have another threat of severe weather, which we'll also talk about here in a couple of minutes. But beginning with tomorrow, we do have a marginal threat of severe weather. This is going from southern parts of Wisconsin all the way back down into Texas and Louisiana. This is actually one of the larger marginal threats of severe weather that we've had in quite some time. It's a very large area, and there's no slight risk of severe weather anywhere in here, which is very interesting. This is a 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. Basically, what that means is that we're at the lowest risk of there being severe weather. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a small slight risk of severe weather, perhaps back down in Arkansas, Texas, or Louisiana due to large hail. But the main concern across this entire area tomorrow, from the Midwest back into the southern plains, will be damaging winds and large hail. I expect more of a damaging wind threat in the Midwest over a large hail threat, but I wouldn't rule out a couple of storms having some quarter to $half sized hail. But there is a tornado risk tomorrow. It is very small right now, but I would not be surprised as well if this did grow a little bit, perhaps a little bit further down to the south. The marginal threat is going to include areas like southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. So basically what this means is that there might be an isolated brief tornado or two. It's nothing like we just saw a few days ago where we had 11 tornadoes confirmed in northern Illinois. We're not looking at that sort of situation. This will be maybe 1 or 2 tornadoes. That's basically what we're talking about for tomorrow. Also going to Tuesday, which is tossing trampolines on Tacos Tuesday, we do have a marginal threat of severe weather for southern Arkansas back into the entire state of Louisiana, Mississippi, and eastern Texas. There's also going to be a threat of severe weather most likely later in the week for areas in the Dixie Alley. I think this will be closer to Saturday. This actually could include anywhere in this area for the record, anywhere from eastern Texas back into South Carolina. That'll be closer to the end of the week. We'll have more details on that here in just a few minutes. All right, let's talk more about the severe weather threat for tomorrow. We will begin with the Midwest. As we go into tomorrow morning, things are going to stay relatively dry. A few passing showers, maybe a downpour, no severe weather until at least the afternoon. This is right around 2 o'clock or so. A few showers, maybe a couple elevated thunderstorms across central Wisconsin. And these would not be severe, but with that being said, there could be a couple of those storms that do produce maybe some small hail. Closer to 3 to 4 o'clock, more storms are firing up, but the area that we need to watch for will be right in here in eastern Iowa back through southwest Wisconsin, and these are going to be the storms around 4 to 5 o'clock that'll begin to fire up that will have the best chance of producing some isolated severe weather. So notice this by 6, we do have some storms developing, and also notice that little pink area here in eastern Iowa. That's what we're really watching for, is if there's an isolated storm or two that really grow in size, we'll have the potential there for some large hail and damaging winds, and there is going to be an isolated tornado risk. But with that being said, a lot of these storms will be in a cluster, so the tornado risk is not going to be really as identical to what we saw a few days ago, where we had a few more discrete cells kind of going. These are going to be more linear, so it's going to be a little bit harder for that tornado risk to develop. By 9 to 10 o'clock, I think a lot of these storms are going to be non-severe. I think overall the Chicago suburbs are really going to have a tough time getting any sort of severe weather, but maybe some isolated large hail. By 2 to 3 o'clock, those storms are moving into Chicago, and eventually going into Tuesday morning, a few storms will be possible in southern Michigan, back into Ohio and Indiana. Those storms probably not going to be severe, but there might be some small hail and gusty winds. Back into the Ohio Valley, most of the afternoon will be dry, even into the evening hours. Overnight, there will be a few elevated showers and storms. Most of these will not be severe, and they'll overall remain pretty isolated across areas in southern Indiana, back into Kentucky, and as well as Tennessee. Back down in the southern plains, bit of a different story. More storms will be ongoing during the afternoon hours around 6 to 7 o'clock in southern Louisiana. Those storms will have the potential to produce all modes of severe weather. I think that tornado risk, though, will stay very, very low. Overall, the shear tomorrow is not going to be really that existent. It's going to be very minimal, basically meaning the rotation in storms are going to be lacking a lot. That means the tornado risk will overall be pretty low. Once we go closer to midnight, storms will start to fire up closer into areas like Arkansas and as well as back into northeast Texas. A couple different areas to watch for. Main concern with these will be large hail and as well as some damaging wind gusts, and eventually by about Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., storms still ongoing across most of Arkansas, and eventually as we go into the early afternoon hours, storms will start to move actually a bit more westerly. Most likely, if this does happen, it would be because of an outflow boundary. So these storms will actually be moving east, but the outflow boundary will be moving west, so storms will be developing further to the west. That's essentially what that would mean in that case. And the entire story of this forecast is that there are multiple storms coming to the United States. That's not the only one. Once we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, again, we're gonna have a lot of showers and thunderstorms all throughout Monday and Tuesday from about the Ohio Valley and Midwest back into the Dixie Alley. But once we go into Wednesday into Thursday, we will need to watch this storm a little bit more closely for maybe an isolated threat of severe weather. But what becomes much more interesting will be closer to Thursday and Friday, where we get a different low pressure system developing back down in the southern plains. This will be coming off the Rocky Mountains, and this would be bringing the potential for some severe weather, primarily from Texas all the way back into areas like Alabama and Georgia. This definitely could be our next potential for some sort of at least small scale severe weather outbreak. Once we go into Friday into Saturday, those storms move to the east, and we'll be watching for severe weather in the Dixie Alley by Friday into Saturday. And by Sunday, this moves to the north and east, maybe some snow in the northeast, but that's pretty uncertain right now. But that is really going to be our next legitimate shot, at least at some sort of slight or enhanced risk of severe weather, would be going into the late week. So keep that in mind, especially if you're anywhere from Texas back into South Carolina. That does look a bit more concerning. I will have more specific details on this in our next forecast, so make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. In addition to all this, the temperatures over the next several days will remain for the most part above average for the entire country. West Coast will be really the only area that's going to be below average. Once we go into Thursday and Friday, that warm air continues to stick around for much of the country. By Saturday into Sunday, that low pressure system that'll move across the southern plains and central plains, and this will bring a brief cool down to areas in the Ohio Valley, central and southern plains, and back into the Dixie Alley. But overall, it's not going to be anything like an Arctic or cold blast. It's going to be pretty minimal overall, getting us close to average temperatures for this time of the year. In terms of the temperatures tomorrow, the potential for record-breaking high temperatures does exist in the Midwest and back into the Great Lakes region. Many areas in Michigan will be skyrocketing close to 70 degrees tomorrow. So enjoy the day. Beautiful weather is in store, but by Tuesday morning, some storms will be impacting your plans, at least for the morning. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.